Robert Plank Show, episode 152. Convert with webinars and get clients with magnetic messenger Alysa Rushton. Hey everyone, and welcome back to the Robert Plank Show, where we talk about making money and pursuing your passion, all that good stuff. Our guest today is Alysa Rushton. She's known as the Women's Voice Igniter and six-figure coaching mentor. She's a master certified public speaking instructor and sales coach who teaches heart-centered entrepreneurs how to craft, package, and promote their authentic message and shine their light so they can magnetically attract their ideal clients. She's the founder and CEO of Magnetic Messengers Academy and the creator of popular programs like Get Clients with Speaking and Profitable Workshops That Rock. Alysa's clients and students go on to do great things like publish books, speak on TED stages, become featured experts on the news, and more. I can't wait to hear about how we can all jump on that train. How are things today, Alysa?
They're great. Thank you, Robert, for that great introduction. I'm super happy to be here today.
Cool. I'm glad that you made it. So, can you tell us about this public speaking thing and what it is compared to the other ways of getting yourself out there, and what makes you special to talk about this kind of thing?
Okay, well, let me address the public speaking thing first because I think you sort of talked about what makes me special, but I'll address that in a second. So the first thing is that public speaking is really fascinating in that today we live in this really online world and it's very fast paced and we're all in this online business game and we want to get clients. But what's really amazing is that public speaking is such a brilliant way to help you get clients because no other way can you actually connect with people and really let them feel your energy and experience you and what it's like to not necessarily work with you, but what it's like to be with you. And so, what I see happen a lot in today's online business world is that many people are putting out free gifts and this content and that content. But when you show up either on a webinar or in a live event, it's really something remarkable and people are with you for a longer time. And so they really can get a sense of you and what makes you special. And therefore, you can start to really attract in your ideal clients, which I believe is what makes a brilliant business.
Awesome. So, when we're talking about public speaking, so did I hear you right in that when you talk about public speaking, you're counting not just live events, but also online webinars and things like that in that whole mix?
Indeed, I am. Yeah.
Cool, and I'm glad that that's part of the topic here because I mean I was just thinking as you were explaining that to I don't know, maybe like 7 8 years ago when I mean I'm a computer programmer and I'm really like I like to like keep to myself and not talk to anyone, things like that. But then when go to webinar was picking up, and when having all these online launches and these kind of things were picking up, I kind of realized that I had to step it up, and if I remained hiding in my little cubby hole, then I was gonna get passed over again and again, and then I would just have competitors outdo me over and over again unless I put myself out there and kind of upped my confidence. So do you have anything to say along those lines? Like if someone's listening to this today, and we're going to be talking about public speaking, is anyone just automatically if someone's listening and they're trying to just write themselves off and they're trying to say, or I can't do that, I can't be a public speaker, I mean, what do you have to say to someone like that?
I love this question. Well, two things. The first thing is that some people, if you're an introvert and you're listening, you might feel like you could never get up on stage. And that's one of the reasons why I actually love webinars for my clients who tend to be a little more introverty. They do great with online webinars because it takes away some of the scariness factor of being up in front of people in the public eye, yet you still get to connect with people on a really deep level, share your message, and share an offer or share a way to work with you. So, for people who are maybe more introverted, that seems to be a really great way to get out there. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I mean, it does, but it opens up some more questions, which is always a good thing. So, are you a people person, Alyssa? Are you like the kind of person who can socialize with everyone, or are you that introverted type we talked about?
Yeah, I'm a quintessential people person. And I'm also a quintessential person who is totally fine to be on their own. I do well in both environments. And quite frankly, I need both environments in my life.
Perfect. So I mean, you can adapt to whatever situation comes in front of you. So when you were just explaining that whole process, you were explaining a little bit about you run a webinar and you share some of your knowledge and you share some of your personality and you get people excited and you share an offer at the end. Can you kind of walk us through maybe like a recent webinar or a case study sort of like that where you went through that process?
Yeah, and let me say that this process is very similar for both speaking in a live environment and a webinar. So the webinar is just a little bit different, but basically it's a very similar formula. And by the way, I have a formula for speaking in person. If you go to getclientswithspeaking.com, you can download my 7-step signature talk formula, and I'm going to give you those 7 steps here in just a second.
Perfect.
But what I want to tell you is it's not a lot different from actually doing a webinar. There's just a couple things that you would do a little bit differently in a webinar. Okay, so you want to take them through the 7 steps? Does that sound good?
Yeah, let's do it. Sounds great.
Okay. So the first thing is that you want to connect with your audience. So whether it's online or in person, you want to make connecting with your audience the very most important thing that you do. If you're not connected with your audience, everything else is going to feel yucky. And Robert, you asked me at the top of the show, what makes me different to teach this stuff? What makes me special and unique? Well, I'll tell you, I work in energy. And so the energy of the room, the energy of the audience is the utmost important to me. And I think we've all been in that webinar or even that live talk where the we could tell that the speaker really wasn't interested at all that we were there, and we had a dollar sign above our head and we left and we felt like we needed to take a shower afterwards. Have you ever felt like that?
Oh yeah, all the time.
Oh yeah, all the time. So that is tough. We don't want people to feel like that, and we don't want our audience to feel like that. And quite frankly, when your audience feels like that, they won't buy from you. They get turned off, they tune out. In a live audience, it looks like people scratching their face and not looking down, and they don't engage with you. In a webinar, that looks like people hopping off the webinar. So people can sense our intentions. And so the first thing is that we really do want to intend to connect with our audience and intend to give them some real quality information. And so that's the first step. And once you do that, then it's a very simple process. So now the next step and in the process, and this is where people start to get tripped up, by the way. So connecting with our audience, okay, we can do that. But then they start to really get tripped up in that we want to do that powerful opening. And I recommend that people begin by engaging with their audience right away. So what happens is that why I see a lot of speakers will do this is they'll make it all about them instead of all about their audience. So you just want to connect with your audience in a way that's all about your audience and not about you. And you can do that by opening with a question or a quote, or you can do some sort of a story if you have more time, but you want to involve that audience right off the bat. Don't start talking about you and how fantastic you are and about all the education you've had and all the names and numbers behind your name. That just will bore an audience to tears and they'll check out right from the beginning.
And I mean, I've seen that. I mean, we've all seen that, right? Webinars or stage presentations where they take 20, 30 minutes just to get to the meat of it, as opposed to these webinars where they open with a question, and it might even just be something simple that gets me to start thinking. And as they're getting ramped up in that first 5 minutes, my brain is just it's reacting in a way that's different than the usual webinar stuff I'm used to when they have a question that makes me think as opposed to 30 minutes of them.
Exactly. Exactly. And then the next step is to tell your story. And this is where I see people really go down in flames. They either fall into one of two camps. The first camp being they don't want to tell their story at all, so they just don't, or they overtell their story. And both things are troublesome. The audience needs to understand and connect with who you are as a speaker, whether it's online or whether it's in person. And if you don't share with them who you are and why you're the person to be telling them this stuff, then it can be really tough. But if you overshare and, like you said, you drone on and on for 30 minutes, it's equally awful. And people hate that, I think, even more than the undersharing. So you want to share your story in a really good way, a really juicy way. And I break this down in that 7-step signature talk formula handout that you can get by going to getclientswithspeaking.com. Let's see, the next step is sharing content. And the content is really interesting. This is where I believe it's important to teach people something. They came to your webinar or they came to your talk because they had a problem and they felt like you could help them solve it. Now, it's not realistic for the person or for you to think you can solve all of the audience's problems in a 60 or 90-minute talk, but you can help them solve a top of mind problem, or you can help them solve a little piece of their problem. And so you want to deliver your content in a really valuable way. Again, I break this down for you in the 7-step signature talk formula because when we break our content down for our audience, they can start to digest it and it feels really good to them. And I show you how to do it in a way that actually, instead of getting them over full, gets them hungry for what you're going to give them. So sometimes what I see happen with speakers is most speakers are over teachers. They want to teach and teach and teach that audience. There are some speakers that are under teachers and they actually don't give any real content. But for the most part, the people I tend to attract are over teachers. They want to give a lot of value. But what happens, it's like you want to sell your audience a Thanksgiving dinner and you bring them in and you feed them a Thanksgiving dinner and then you say, can I sell you Thanksgiving dinner now? And they're like, oh my God, I'm so full. There's no way I can eat another bite. And that's what you want to avoid in your talk. You want to give them a little bit of the dinner and get them hungry for the rest. Does that make sense?
Yes, sort of, but I'm trying to think like how does someone know like if I'm planning out my talk or I'm planning out how much meat to have in there, how do I know if I'm out of whack, if I'm over teaching or under teaching?
Oh, brilliant question, Robert. I love this question. So, what I teach is a system that you can always know if you're over teaching or under teaching. Normally, what people do is they try to teach everything they know about the given topic in a 90-minute talk. And what I teach you to do is pull out one thing, one content point, and go really deep with it. So, let me give you an example of this from my own business. And I think this will make a lot of sense when I share this example, okay?
Okay.
Okay. So in Get Clients with Speaking, I have an online course. It's called Get Clients with Speaking. And I literally teach how to create a profitable business with speaking. I teach you how to come up with your topic, how to create a signature offer, how to create a signature talk, how to be powerful on stage, how to get actually booked for speaking gigs, both online and off. And if you are speaking offline, how to fill the room. And then I teach you a process about how to keep the money flowing with a follow up. Okay. So, what most people would do is they would try to teach a little bit about their entire system in a 60 or 90-minute talk. And that's where the mistakes start to happen. So, what you want to do is you first want to understand what your system is, what you're offering to people, And then you want to pull out one piece of that offer or one piece of your system and just teach pretty deeply on that. So, for example, I have a talk that I give, and it's all about creating your irresistible signature talk. And I break it down and I show people exactly how easy it is to do. And I give them a ton of tips and content, and I teach them that. So I go deep, but then there's still room for the other steps in my system. And so after that talk, they're like, oh my gosh, that was so yummy that I now want to buy your program because I know you're going to teach me so much more.
So what you're saying is to don't to go deep instead of going wide.
Go deep, not wide. Exactly.
Heck yeah. So just make sure I understand you. So let's say that you were presenting on like a weight loss course or something, and so the wrong way to do it, the way that I guess a lot of people naturally want to make their talk is to just say, okay, well, I teach weight loss, and here's how you eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and here's how you exercise, and here's how you do your water, and here's how you measure all your stuff. But if someone was giving a talk, they could just talk about, well, here's how I lose weight with just the breakfast area, and then they can unpack all of that stuff. Is that right?
Yeah, or they could even just address the food, like a tiny portion of the food piece. Here's what you would eat for breakfast and lunch and dinner, and pick three content points within that one heading. But you're right, most people lose it when they start to teach on all of it. The breakfast, the eating, the exercise, the water, the weight training. It just is too much for people and they literally have to check out. So if you go deep on one thing, people can see the value that you bring and it gets them hungry for the other stuff that you have.
And that's awesome because it sounds like if they try to shallowly cover every part of their offer, it's almost like I'm getting the cliff notes, and then I feel like, well, why should I then buy from you if you kind of already explained the gist of it to me?
Exactly. And what I want to also tell you is that that is not being of service to your audience. Because if you give people just the cliff notes, what's missing typically is more information and also help and support to get to their goal. And so when people feel like they've been filled up and they know what they need to know, then they're often running to the next thing without the help and support of you, your program. Most coaches and entrepreneurs that I work with are trying to sell a coaching program or a mastermind program or some sort of online course. And when people feel that overfilled feeling, then they actually don't get the transformation that they were looking for and their search continues. Whereas if you go deep with something and they end up purchasing with you, typically they'll get the transformation that they want. So this process actually helps you be in absolute service of your audience.
Awesome. And so,
Indeed.
so those were the first four steps. We have three more to go. Is that right?
We sure do.
Heck
So
yeah.
heck yeah. So step 5 and 6 go together in a talk. And I like to do these in the body of the talk, so not at the end. If it's a live training, if it is a webinar, I actually do these at the end. So that's the difference here. So what you then do is after you've given your content, you want to give the audience a really amazing free gift. And the free gift serves a purpose so that you're solving another problem for them or maybe going a little bit deeper on helping them solve that problem. So, as an example, when someone attends my talk and I teach them the 7 step signature talk formula, I actually give them a free gift, which is this form that I use in a live environment that they can customize to get people on their list. So it's a really juicy piece of content. You want to pick something as a free gift that is awesome, not something that sucks. You want to pick something that you actually would charge for or something that you actually do charge for because it will have a lot of value. And you want to set it up and you don't want to just say, I'm giving you this free gift because that takes all the value out of what you're going to give them. So you want to say, I want to give you something that I normally charge let's say $97 for. So go ahead and scratch out that $97. If you were in the live environment, you'd say that. On the internet, you wouldn't. You say, I'm just giving this to you for today instead of $97 because you're here. I'm giving it to you for free. But you want to build the value of your gift. So once you give them that gift, then you can give your offer. Now, it depends on what your offer is. A beginning place to start would be to offer some sort of a strategy session if you're a coach. A more advanced offer would be to actually sell something from the stage. And when you're giving your offer, you just want to think of it as another tip. And again, there's a whole teaching that would take me in about 90 minutes to teach you how to actually make an offer. It's an art, but you want to combine the gift and the offer together so that people feel like you're giving first. And then once you make your offer, it feels really good to them because they feel like they've gotten a lot. They can see the value that you're bringing, and they just know that they're going to get so much more when they take the next step with you. And then finally, it's the wrap up. It's the delivering the rest of your content if there's any. It's getting to the Q&A, and it's calling them into action. We're in such an information society. We're in such an information overload. And what we tend to forget as human beings is that information alone does not cause transformation. If that were the case, everyone with a YouTube access to YouTube would be a brilliant, business marketer, or they would be a brilliant, multimillionaire. But that's not the case because information alone doesn't cause that transformation. We need accountability. We need support. We need information broken down for us in a really systematized way. And that is where you and your services come in, is that you can help people by calling them into action and taking that next step with you so that they can get that kind of transformation that they came to that talk, either online or in person, that they're looking for.
Awesome. So, I mean, a lot of steps here. We have. Let me make sure I have this right here. So, step one, connect with your audience. Step two, engage with them right away. Step three, tell your story. Step four, share some content. Step five, share an amazing free gift. Step six, give the offer, and then step seven, wrap up any loose ends.
Boom, you nailed it.
So, have you ever come across? Have you? I don't know. Like one thing that has me a little bit concerns with running webinars and kind of seeing the way a lot of other ones are done is that I've seen that sometimes the freebie or the Q&A kind of gets in the way of the offer or the close. Have you ever seen something like this happen with webinar presenters?
I certainly have. And definitely it needs to be done in a skillful way because if it's not skillful, it definitely will interfere with people taking action. And so on a webinar, you want to do a couple things for yourself as a webinar host. And I know we're kind of bouncing back and forth here between speaking live and webinars, but if you are running a webinar, one thing to remember is always on your screen, you want to have, as you're making your offer, you want to have what your offer is and a link to your checkout page. And you want to keep that top of mind for people. You want to begin and end on that. So that's really where the attention is, and try not to get sidetracked too much. It's okay to take Q&A and it's okay to do a free gift, but you don't want it to take the main stage. Does that answer your question?
Yeah. So did you say that you have the link to the checkout page at the beginning as well as at the end? Is
I
that
do it right away. Yeah, I do. I do it right away. And by the way, the webinar system that I teach, for myself, most of the students that I take through this end up having a really high webinar closing rate, about 18, some of them as high as 20%, which are wonderful numbers. So what the first thing you want to do is share with people where to go and get them thinking about it, start getting them tantalized, and then obviously end on that link as well. I put that link on every single page as I'm going through my offer so that it's always top of mind. You don't want to get into the place where people are on a particular slide with you and they don't know where to go. You want
right?
them always knowing that link.
I mean, that makes sense. So is this a case of like you begin and you share your offer and you teach all this different stuff, and then you have the free gift, but then when it comes time to have the offer, you're repeatedly mentioning this URL, so that way I guess the free gift is something that you mentioned, a few minutes in there, but the main attraction, there's no confusion, there's no mistake, is go to my checkout page and buy this thing. Is that right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Okay,
Indeed.
cool. So, I mean, as we're winding this down, do you have any advice for not necessarily the shyness that we're talking about in the beginning that some people might have, but as we were around maybe step 2 or 3, I guess there's like the pushiness of it, right? Because I guess if you're too pushy, then it alienates people and it's too much about you, and it's like the whole dollar sign floating over the head kind of thing earlier. But I guess if people aren't pushy enough, then there's not enough of a directness. So do you have any thoughts about that? Of how can someone get calibrated to not be too pushy but also not be too timid about it?
I love this question. So, first off, I would take the word pushy out of their language altogether because anytime someone feels pushed against, they're going to resist that push. So, we can't bring pushy or not pushy energy to our talk at all. So, we have to remove that from our vocabulary. And the energy we have to get into is being of service to our audience. And when you are in service to your audience, you align with sharing your message, sharing your story, sharing your content and your free gift and your offer and all of that in a way that feels really good to you and to your audience. You're going to align with the feeling of being in service. Because when people can genuinely tell that you want to be in service, there's not going to be any of that pushy energy around you. And they're going to actually feel on a very energetic, high level that you want to be in service and that it doesn't really matter to you whether they sign up or whether they don't. That's always the energy that I bring to every talk that I give. And I teach my clients to do it as well. And when you can do that, when you can let go of who buys what from you, and instead you can be in the energy of just being in service of your audience and know that you've done the work of designing your talk right so that it does all the heavy lifting for you. You don't have to be pushy. You don't have to even think about what you're doing because you know that your talk is structured in such a way that it's going to naturally get the audience hungry to work with you and you can just show up and be in service.
I like it, and that's cool in that it works in two ways. In that you have the structure and you have the slides already set up, like you said, where you can rely on that a little bit, and I guess that helps with the confidence, and that helps with the am I on the right track, saying the right thing? And then near the beginning of our talk here, you're talking about how you have a room in front of you, and you kind of take the temperature of the room. And if you have people who are nodding off or on their laptop, then that means things are on the wrong track, or people are leaving the webinar, things are on the wrong track. So it's kind of like there's these two pieces to it, right? There's what you already had set up, the structure and your training and stuff, and then there's the thinking on your feet component. And those people who are either bored or interested or excited are a good barometer of am I am I serving, am I on the right track, or am I boring them? As opposed to, am I energetic, am I getting them where they need to go, or is it just not, is it a misalignment?
Mhm. And what I find consistently is that if your talk is structured well, you won't have that funky disconnect of your audience. You won't have that people checking out. If your talk's aligned really well and you're on track with yourself, your audience will be totally tuned in. Your audience will be hanging on your every word. Your audience will be so excited about what you're sharing that's why I share this structure, these 7 steps, because once you get the structure down, there's so much less for you as a speaker to worry about. And you can just show up, be yourself, be authentic, and get people helped and get people signing up to work with you.
And have some fun and make some money and have your audience have fun and make
Yeah.
money too, right? So
Indeed, yeah.
So as we're getting wound down here, so in your travels and experiences and seeing, good presenters and bad presenters, is there a number one mistake? Is the mistake that people aren't aligned with their audience right, or is there something even bigger where you just see this common problem over and over again?
I'm sorry, I don't think I understood the question. Is there the biggest mistake that
Yeah,
speakers
is
make,
is
or is
there
there?
yeah, is there a number one mistake universal throughout speakers?
Um, no, but if I could give you one mistake as a theme of today, the number one mistake when it comes to making an offer and being of service of your audience is overteaching. It's that classic going wide instead of going deep, and just, I call it show up and throw up. And people hate that. And so you want to just avoid that mistake and really spend time on your content. Spend time making sure that you do teach somebody something, but that you don't overwhelm them so that they don't have to check out.
All that makes perfect sense, and this is making a lot of sense to me because that's usually my problem. My problem is I'll teach 7 steps, or I'll teach like all these little bits and pieces and all these things that I try to fit in. So my thing at years ago at the time was, well, I'm going to take 5 hours worth of stuff and fit it into an hour, and then I wonder why I'm running out of time, why I'm having to rush through things, wonder why people aren't buying. And so that's such a simple idea, but I think that's one of those things that it creeps up again and again with live presentations and with webinars, and that's something that now that you've kind of put it into words and put it into a concept, that's the thing that I'm going to be watching out for with my own presentations is, am I overwhelming them by going wide when I should have gone deep?
Yeah, and honestly, it's the number one reason why people don't buy from you. It's because they're totally overwhelmed and they can't even see themselves taking action on what you just taught them, let alone benefiting from the next step with you. So if you just teach them one little piece, they can see that much more clearly. They can go, "Oh, okay, he's gonna break this content down in a way that I can really digest this."
That makes a lot of
Super
sense.
important.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if people are either new speakers or existing speakers and they're looking for you to provide that kind of an insight to tweak what they have or what they have coming up so they don't alienate their audience, where can they go to find out about that freebie you mentioned earlier, as well as your websites and blogs and where they can buy from you and all that good stuff? Where are your websites at?
Well, I'd encourage everyone to go to getclientswithspeaking.com and download the 7 step signature talk formula. This is for the live environment, it's not for a webinar, but you can make a couple of quick tweaks and easily have an amazing webinar with this.
Awesome.
If yeah, if you want to connect with me further, my website is Magnetic Messengers Academy. And I'm sure you can put a link someplace for people.
Oh yeah.
Magnetic Messengers Academy is my website, so that'll get you connected with me.
Awesome. I mean, we'll put that in the show notes, but just if people are listening in their cars and things, then they can just write down magneticmessengersacademy.com and get clients with speaking.com. So lots of good stuff today, and thanks for stopping by the show and talking to us about some public speaking, Alyssa.
Hey, you're welcome. It was a pleasure to be here, Robert. Thank you so much.
No problem. Hey, this is Robert Plank, and I really sincerely hope you enjoyed our talk with Alysa today. Please go to robertplank.com/iTunes, and if you have about 10 seconds or less, click the ratings and reviews tab and give us a 5-star rating or whatever you think is fair. Thank you very much, and have a wonderful